Back with another one. I'm playing catch up on all stuff, but this is the book that we're reading, The New World Order by Ralph Epperson. I'm doing chapters 12, 13, and 14. They real short. And I mean, the New World Order here is here. It's only two things that is stopping the implementation. It is Iran and the Patriots in America. Once those two things gone, that's it. It's here. The one world order, the one world religion, one world currency, one world dictatorship. It's all in Revelations. Read it. Learn you something. Um, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. I don't understand why people can't hit the like button. I don't get it. When I go on people video, first thing I do is hit the like button and I hit play. Okay. Chapter 12, East and West. In order to understand why light has become an object of worship by the Masons and others, one has to understand some simple laws of the physical universe. It is obvious that the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west. The Masons know that it is in the direction known as east where the physical sun rises each day. Mr. Pike, that's Albert Pike, indicated that it is in the eastern part of their lodge and that their worshipful master, their equivalent of the president, sits. One Mason who explained this fact was Captain William Morgan, a Mason of some 30 years, who exposed the Masonic rituals in his book entitled Freemasonry Exposed. According to him, he wrote, the master sits in the east for a reason. As the sun rises in the east to open and adorn the day, no so presides the worshipful master in the east to open and adorn his lodge. Albert Pike further he said, our lodges are said to be due east and west because the master represents the rising sun and of course must be in the east. Mr. Mackey also wrote about the relationship of the place of the master's location and the east. The east being the place where the master sits is considered the most honorable part of the lodge. So the sun, a symbol of Lucifer, the god of some of the Masons, resides in the east. The Masons know this, so they place their worshipful master in that area and then conceal the reasons why they have done so from their fellow Masons. The significance of this fact will become clear in further chapters of this study. That's it for chapter 12. 13. The Pyramid of Giza, Egypt. The Masons have agreed with the Egyptians that Osiris, one of the gods, was a deity. For instance, Albert Mackey wrote Osiris was the sun. Sun gods all over the world have become temples erected to their memory, and as a place where they might be worshipped, Osiris was no exception. I need something else. The Masons are aware of this penchant for temple building as a place for God worship. In October 1953, a Mason wrote in a New Age magazine published by the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. I did not know they had a magazine. If since you were to visit the if you were to visit the Great Pyramid of Giza, also called Giza, you would be presented with a souvenir stating that Osiris commanded things to build him a house in the form of a pyramid with certain designated passageways. Some in Egypt claim that the Great Pyramid was not built as a tomb for the deceased pharaohs, but as a temple for the initiation into the worship. Facts. There is now a growing body of evidence to support that claim. But it's important to set the stage for that conclusions first by examining the evidence. There are some who claim that the pyramid was constructed about 6,000 years ago and not about 3,000 years ago, as most archaeologists believe. One who makes the claim is Richard Noon in his book entitled 5-5-2000. Mr. Noon's book is not about the pyramids as much, but about his claims that the massive changes will occur on Earth on that date. In the year 2000, due to a change in alignment of five planets near to the Earth, this will not be a place to comment on his charges. However, he has done considerable research into the pyramids as part of his studies. He has pointed out that the word for pyramid in ancient Egypt was glorious light, once again connecting the pyramid with the sun and the sun god Osiris. Well, when they built the pyramids, they got a sundial at the top. So as the sun rose, it would penetrate, through the sundial and go down, into the pyramid and give light. That's deep. I just got what I said. Okay. He has pointed out, okay. Manly Hall wrote, the pyramids, the great Egyptian temples of initiation. He also wrote, the illumined of iniquity entered into portals as men. They came forth as gods. They went in as men, but came out as gods. There are many now who believe that an individual named Khufu built the Great Pyramid. The name, according to Mr. Noon, is phonetically similar to the ancient Egyptians' word for the Great Pyramid, Khutu, Khuti, or Kudu, meaning glorious light. Some writers on the pyramid had indicated that their research has led them to the conclusion that the pyramids was a concealed timetable built into passageways. Max Toth, in his book Pyramid Prophecies, wrote, the prophecies of the ancient masters are located into the pyramid form. Mr. Moon wrote, beginning at the geometrical point beneath the pyramid iris edge, the line measures 6,000 inches. For those not familiar with these terms, the pyramid is entered through a passageway called the descending passageway. This meets with the passageways going up the pyramid called the ascending passage, at the end of which are several rooms. So here the author is describing a line down the grand gallery through the ground under the pyramid where it meets with a line coming down the outside of the pyramid. The line from the point where the two lines meet, now this geometry, back up the inside line where it meets the rooms at the top of the passageway measures 6,000 inches. The significance of the measurement will be explained in the following paragraphs. The important thing to notice here is that 6,000 inch line is truly hidden. It does not exist in reality. It is hidden underground with no apparent existence. It is truly a hidden prediction. Joseph Carr, a writer on the Nazi Party of Adolf Hitler, he wrote, in April 1904, an English Buddhist named Aleister Crowley visited Cairo. Ooh, he the one that wrote that book, Sex Magic. How to cast spells during sex. Mm, wow. Rose Crowley, his wife, asked her husband to perform a magical ritual. He obeyed by saying the prayer of invocation to Horus, another Egyptian sun god. He later claimed that a being appeared to him during the hour and announced to him that the old age was passing away and a new age was dawning. Also revealed to Crowley was that the religion of the New Age could not take its place until the old religion, Christianity, was smashed. That's what they doing now. Mm. So here we are with the connection between the pyramid, sun worship, and the New Age. One of the proofs that the pyramid was not constructed as a burial chamber is in fact that both the two large rooms inside the pyramid, the so-called King's Chamber and the Queen's Chamber, have vent ducts leading from inside the rooms to the outside of the pyramid. This has led many to believe that the ducts were meant to provide air for human occupants. Some of these writers have expressed their opinions in books they have written. One of these is Wilford Gregson, an architect and 33rd degree Mason. He wrote, obviously, the idea was to get air moving into the pyramid. You can't exist very long breathing stagnant air. So, my principle is that this was a temple of initiation. Manly Hall wrote, there seems to be no reason why legitimate tombs should have air vents going from the king's chamber out to the surface. Another writer on the pyramid, mm, I got my tooth with. Oh my God. Another writer on the pyramid, Andre Potion, in his book, The Mysteries of the Great Pyramid, he wrote, if the two conducts into the king's chamber were originally ventilation ducts, the unavoidable conclusion is that the Great Pyramid's upper chamber was not the site of royal uh, sculpture. Continuous ventilation would have been inevitably resulted in not only the putrefaction of the mummy, but also the rapid destruction of all funerary furniture indispensable to the deceased for his life to the beyond. Mr. Noon wrote, the temple of the east of the quadrangle has a great many repeats of a huge sunburst. From the middle of the sunburst is the huge head of the serpent whose mouth is open. This needs little explanation. The sun, representing God, and the serpent, his divine wisdom, holds man's head so that he can neither see the serpent divine wisdom nor the light of God from which it comes. Mr. Noon is saying that the serpent is attempting to keep man from understanding that the God was Lucifer in the form of a sunburst. But there's another mystery concealed inside the Great Pyramid that needs to be explored. The pyramid appears to have been built to memorialize the explosion of the great star 4,000 years ago. Now you got to remember this book was written in the early 90s, late 80s. Mr. Noon says if the Sydney Passage and Grand Gallery were built to observe the supernova explosion, that just made me think about Left Eye before she passed away, that her album was called Supernova. Okay. The Giza complex was built to memorialize a tremendous cataclysm in the Earth's planetary system, which affected the globe with fire and flood. The Grand Gallery, aimed like the giant telescope at a particular celestial body in the Earth's southern sky, before its view of the heavens were blocked by the completion of the building, points to where radio astronomy has just pinpointed the supernova nearest to our solar system. The Great Pyramid's Grand Gallery is focused at this particular spot in the Earth's southern sky. Then Mr. Noel also wrote in the late 1960s, Dr. Anthony Hewish, 1974 co recipient of the Nobel Prize in Physics, was working at England's Merlin Radio Astronomy Observatory. Mr. New pointed about Dr. Hewish, demonstrated that the strange rhythmic pulses were radio emissions from a star that had collapsed or blown itself up in the Earth's southern sky around 4000 BC, a date memorialized in the Mysteries of Freemasonry as Anno Lucius, the year light. And Lucius stands for Lucifer. In another part of the world, George Monasky authored the book The Once and Future Star. He wrote the ancient Sumerian table was deciphering described a giant star exploding within a triangle formed by the three stars Zeta Puppis, Gamma Valorium, and Lambda Valorium. These three stars are located in the Earth's southern sky and unknown to Malinsky at the time were being tracked by Anthony Hewish. Malinsky continued deciphering the Sumerian text or the Sumerian star catalog containing observations going back thousands of years. The remarkable accurate star catalog now stated that the blazing star that had exploded within the triangle would again be seen by man in 6,000 years. Wow. So, two world renowned scientists had independently discovered the results of the large explosion that they both felt had occurred 6,000 years ago. Mr. Noah or Mr. Noon wrote, is there a Masonic connection between Vela X, a star which exploded within a triangle? Wow. And the ancient religious symbolism and the star dates of Freemasonry? Albert Mackey, he wrote in his encyclopedia, in the year of the light, abbreviated AL, the data used in ancient craft masonry found by the adding 4,000 to the vulgar, meaning the common year. That's how they do it. They add 4,000, and that's how they. Wow. So if you add 4,000 to 2024, what you get? Wow, that's how they come up with the time in Hebrew. Oh, wow. This current book was being written in 1989, which stands for Anno Domini, the year of the Lord, meaning since the birth of Jesus. But according to the Masons, the true calendar date should be 5989. Wow. That's how they do. Mm. Another writer on the Great Pyramid, Tom Valentino, in his book The Great Pyramid, he wrote, The giant, the Great Pyramid system of passages and chambers is a chronological graph that begins in 4000 BC and continues for 6,000 years. So, according to the Masons, there are only 11 years to the year 6,000. What happens after the 6,000 years? What is next? The New Agers have told us. Marilyn Ferguson, I got her book, The Aquarian Conspiracy. That's a good read. We are entering a millennium of love and light. A millennium is defined as a 1,000-year period. So it appears that sometime in the near future, New Agers are going to see the beginning of the millennium reign of the Lord Maitreya. This position was confirmed by Lucis Trust. Oh, I gave a lecture on Lucis Trust. Alice Bailey, that was the name of their publication. It was called Lucifer Trust, but they changed it to Lucis Trust. Also, a New Age organization, when it wrote the following in the quarterly newsletter in 1982. The year 2000 looms before humanity as a gigantic millstone which marks both an ending and a beginning. It marks the end of a volatile millennium, which has been enormous progress and change. But more importantly, the year 2000 stands as a symbolic portal through which humanity can pass into the new age if it so chooses. So something is coming. Now you gotta remember, like I said, this book was written in the 80s. The obelisk. Now, Francis Crescent Weston, all the phallic symbols, Isis paper unveiled when she talks about the phallic symbols and what they really meant. So this chapter is the old bliss. But if you know anything about Francis Crescent Weston, one of the great leaders who passed, she talks about the bliss being a phallic symbol, which the bliss would be like a penis. And this is how they look. You know, I might read her book to y'all. That's a fantastic. Oh, that's a fantastic read. But this is the last thing I'm gonna read. The Masons have admitted that they are symbols to the conceal important truths from their fellow Masons. Previous chapters have examined two of the major Masonic symbols, the star and the sun. Other Masonic temples need to be explained as well. One of these is the obelisk. The word is defined by dictionary as a tall, four-sided stone pillar tapering toward its pyramidal top. Because the biggest obelisk is in Washington, D.C. There's an obelisk at the Vatican. Wow. And then this is what they're talking about next. There are three major importance in the world today. One in Washington, D.C. Wow. Another in Central Park. I forgot that one. And one at the Vatican. You can't make this up. The first major obelisk is in St. Peter's Square in Rome and is placed in such a way that every pope who addresses any crowd to the square must face the obelisk. The second major is in New York Central Park. The four sides of the obelisk are covered with Egyptian hieroglyphs, and these drawings have been translated by a variety of Egyptologists, including some Messianic writers. The Masons have told the readers of some of the publications that this obelisk says, to praise and adore the divinity of the sun, worshipped by the ancient Egyptians as the source of light and life. It is a representation of the god Ra, the sun. So there is a symbol of the sun in Central Park, heart of New York. The third one is in Washington, D.C., which was constructed to honor George Washington, the first president of the United States. President Washington was an active and public member of the Masonic Lodge. Yes, he was. The monument was built in his honor. It's the tallest such monument in the world, 555 feet high, though not truly an abyss because it's not quarried from a single piece, but put together from a 36,000 separate blocks of granite faced with the marble. The bliss is a symbol that has definite Masonic connections. It was constructed many years after the president's death on December 14, 1799, as it was not until 1833 that the Washington National Monument Society was organized to erect a monument in his memory. The monument was not completed till 1848 when a 3,300-pound capstone was set in place. The height of the capstone appears to be semi-symbolic, utilizing the number 33, while as a reminder of the 33 degrees inside the Masonic order. So George Washington was 33, 33 Mason. Wow. The obelisk was constructed of a total of 36,000 separate blocks and included 188 memorial stones inside the monument donated to the society by individuals, societies, cities, states, and nations of the world. Approximately 35 of these came from Masonic lodges, and the last of these blocks was placed in the monument at the 330-foot level. And number 3 is powerful. Once again, the number 33 shows up in the construction of the obelisk, and once again, it's semi-concealed in fact in its construction. The total cost of the monument back then was $1,300,000. There are other Masonic symbols, secrets concealed in the numbers relating to the 8 windows in the monument, two on each side. 6 of these windows are on the same sides, but the seventh and eighth, the two facing the east, are larger. It will be remembered that the Masons have stated that it is in the east that their master sits. The east has special significance to them. The 8 windows total 39 square feet in size and 39 and 3 times the Masonic number 13. Wow. You cannot make this up. Each of the 2 windows in the east are 2 by 3, and the square of the third side is 13. The total is 4 plus 9 is 13. Mm. Stan Deal wrote in his book, The Cosmic Conspiracy, 13 is the value to represent Satan, the serpent, the dragon, the tempter, or rebellion. So the Washington Monument, dedicated to the memory of a Mason, conceals many Masonic symbols in obelisk form, but there's an extremely important meaning that has not been explained by modern historians. As has been illustrated, the Masons have placed a particular importance on the obelisk, primarily because it has its root in the ancient times in Egypt. However, there is another reason, written by Carl Claudy. He wrote, "The initiate of old saw in the obelisk the very spirit of God he worshipped." So, according to Masonic writer, the obelisk is a symbol of a God that was worshipped by the believers of ancient mysteries. It has been shown that those involved in the ancient mysteries worship Lucifer. But a far more important reason was revealed to those careful enough to note the importance of the revelation. Mr. Claudy also wrote, "From the dawn of the religion, the pillar, monolith, or built up has played an important part in the worship of the unseen. In Egypt, the obelisk stood for a very presence of the sun god himself. He repeated these very words in another section of the book. In Egypt, the obelisk stood for the very presence of the sun god himself. He went on to repeat the statement. The initiate of old saw no bliss the very whatever. Now, he revealed the obelisk is the symbol of the sun god and implied that this very deity is present inside the stone itself. The obelisk stands for the very presence of the sun god, and the sun god is Lucifer. Mr. Pike wrote in Morals on Dog, the obelisk was consecrated to the sun. Kenneth Mackenzie, a third Masonic writer, wrote, "Sun worship was plainly connected with the erection of the obelisk. They were placed in front of the temples of Egypt to worship the sun." And Mr. Mackey, he said obelisks were, it is supposed, originally erected in honor of the sun god. So obelisks are the symbol of the very presence of sun god himself. This is an explanation that is not offered to the overwhelming majority of the American people. Yet one of the major monuments in Washington, D.C., I did a lecture on that. I'm going to bring that to, ooh, I did it already. It's an obelisk and it was corrected to honor George Washington, a very visible member of the Masonic order. And the Masons have concealed various esoteric numbers inside the blocks of the monument itself. One of the strange incidents that involved the Washington Monument occurred in 1981 and then again in 1985 when inauguration ceremony of President Ronald Reagan was moved to the west front of the Capitol from the traditional location, the east front. Every president since George Washington has been sworn in on the east front of the Capitol building. I did not know that. But for some unexplained reason, someone wanted President Reagan sworn in on the West. Wow. Newsweek magazine, January 26, 1981, said swearing in the president on the Capitol's West Front for the first time ever. I did not know that. The article went on to point out that the reason the move was this. But the seldom used west front is crumbling. It's rickety, held up by wooden posts. It's not about to fall down, assured Capitol architect George White, but it is need a structural repair. Rather than pop up for a major repair job, however, Inauguration Committee ordered a hasty coat of white paint and draped a gigantic American flag over the unsightly wooden beams. I did not know that. But the magazine did not explain why the location was moved to the particular side of the Capitol. But a possible explanation was offered rather subtly in Time magazine. The picture was behind the back over the shoulder, elevated, showing that President giving his inaugurational address. The picture is 7 by 8 in size, and both the president of the bottom of the picture and the Washington Monument off in the distance at the top of the picture appear to be 1 inch in height. But the entering caption at the bottom of the picture is where it appears. The hidden message is contained. The caption read, before some 150,000 listeners at the west front of the Capitol, Reagan gazes toward the Washington Monument and delivers his address. The president gazes at the symbol of the very presence of the sun god himself and gives his speech. It is unknown if the shift in location site was for the express purpose of giving a signal to those able to understand the significance of the president gazing at the sun god. Oh my God. But it was the first time that any president had been sworn in on that side of the Capitol, and it put him in a position where if someone had wished to send a signal involving the Washington Monument and its esoteric symbology, they could have done so. The same scene was repeated in President Reagan's second inauguration in 1985. A public ceremony will follow on Monday at the west front of the Capitol. A possible explanation of the significance of these two inauguration ceremonies will be offered in one of the last chapters of the book. But for the esoteric mind, it appeared that someone might have wanted some of the American people to know something about President Ronald Reagan. The move to the west front of the Capitol building might have had a concealed meaning. He was also a Mason as well. I'm not sure of his degree, but Ronald Reagan. And when I was 14, I wrote his name, Ronald Wilson Reagan. I ran to my mama and I was like, he the Antichrist, he the Antichrist. Because I think I read the Bible for the first time at 14. And I believe he was the Antichrist. He wasn't, but the Antichrist is about to be revealed. All right, like, share, subscribe, hit the like button.